Zootopia 2, everybody. 60 restaurants, second, third, fourth, fifth time, anybody?
Yeah!
Okay.
Third time.
Well, to those who joined us for the first time, pretty delightful movie, right? Understatement. I'm David King with the Hollywood Report. Thank you all so much for being here. We've got an amazing panel, starting with the writer and director, Jared Bush.
Woo!
Producer, Yvett Merino.
Yeah.
And director, Byron Howard.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
This is awesome to see everybody together in a theater. This is great. Thank you guys for coming.
Let's start there because this movie is a bona fide phenomenon. I think we can safely say that around the world. Yeah. And that's what you hope when you make a movie like this, right? That people will be in a theater like this, super excited, really taking it in, coming maybe second or third times. Like, talk about when you go into making a movie like this, what it feels like when you get that kind of reception on the other side.
Well, I mean, it's, you've heard us talk about our process before, if you like these kind of movies, because we spend a lot of time in isolation. In one, we have two buildings, one in Vancouver and one in Burbank, but we have, a team of about 750 plus people that we work with over a period of between 3 to 5 years on these films. For the first film, Jared and I was on for 6, which was a crazy long time. But the fact that we spend so much time internally, like looking at this movie over and over again, it is honestly a delight to have the movie go out in the public and have people who've never seen it really react to it. To be in the theater with you guys is pretty emotional and incredible, because I think honestly in the pandemic we missed that so much. So to see this audiences come back is so great.
Yeah, I think as Byron said, we work on these movies so much, and we put so much heart and soul into it. And in our studio, we had over 700 people work on it, but we have about over 1,000 people who kind of work in operations and finance and all the other departments who really kind of support us so we can get the film out the door. And so, I always like think of it as it's our little secret for a while once it's done, and then we release it to the world, and it's so like heartfelt to actually hear the reactions and have people connect to it the way they have it.
So this is, to me, the opposite of a phoned-in sequel, right? The amount of artistry and detail we see in this movie is pretty extraordinary. And while you have been working, in artistry detail, very, dedicated to this movie for the last 4+ years, I believe, you've been building out this world for far longer. So even when you take us back to the initial conversations around Zootopia, as you're building out this world, as you started to figure out what this second film would look like.
Well, I can talk a little bit. First off, you may know or may not know, Byron hired me for the first Zootopia 14 years ago. And he won't shut up about it. But even back then, as we started to build out this world, it was just this unbelievably expansive world of animals. And I think we always thought, even back then, no matter where you put a camera in this city, there was something exciting to watch, something interesting to learn and to think about. And so as we stepped into this next story, we always thought that reptiles would be part of this movie. In the first film, it was really dealing with predator and prey dynamics. Those dynamics are very clean in the mammal world. In the reptile world, less so. And so that's why you didn't see reptiles in the first film. But we thought it would be great to really lean into why in this story, and to really make sure that we were always focused on this relationship between Judy and Nick, who are very different. Not only the type of animals they are, but the way they see the world. And we like the fact that we can parallel their relationship with the relationship between mammals and reptiles.
So as you're getting into the nitty-gritty of what that looks like exactly, I'm curious maybe even how the reception of the first movie, your experience making the first movie, informed then exactly how you approach that with the second one.
Oh, well, it's funny, because we, again, because of our process, we iterate. We put these movies together over and over and over again in storyboard form. If you've ever seen one of our audience previews, which is the first time that we ever take the films out to the public, a lot of that, what you'll see, is storyboard. I think that for our preview, we have about 75% of the film in storyboard, which is just rough pencil drawings cut together with temp score, and we try to get as many of the actors in there as possible. But it really is a proving ground for us to see what's working and what's not. Usually a lot's not working, we have to do a lot of rethinking. But honestly, the thing that really came up there and then for us over and over again is that Jeannie and Nick needed to be at the center of the story. That was what really made people fall in love with the first film, that relationship, that contrast. We had to be sure not to lose that, and not only not to lose it, but to go further with it. And Jared wrote this really amazing, very ambitious script that everyone loved. It was enormous and huge, but even the most kind of great personal things, like that conversation that they had, the overshare on top of the wall. He wrote that very early. And so that's all, yes, right? So good, so good, so good. And Vinny and Jason just acted the heck out of it. And so, and that was one of our tentpoles, honestly. That landed, and we all believed in it. And we knew no matter where that was located, whether it was on the top of a cliff or the top of a weather wall, that scene was really critical to those two and for the audience kind of going on that journey and going further into their relationship. So we changed things a lot. I think we really try to listen, all of us as leadership, to great ideas can come from anywhere. It's really about telling the best story, so it doesn't have to come from us.
Yep.
And it is really about creating something that feels satisfying and a growth for the first movie.
Well, and also what Byron said is we do make these stories for audiences. That's critical to us. My whole childhood, my favorite memories were going to a theater with a lot of people and laughing with everyone, or crying with everybody, or everyone having the jump scare at the same time. It's a critical part of what we do, something that we love. And so as we're listening to our audiences, that really matters to us, because ultimately we want to have this shared experience, and that's so hard to come across these days.
I'm curious, even we'll get to specific new characters in a moment, but there are so many characters in this film, and there is a real, you mentioned the enormous crew you guys are working with, there's a real rigorous artistry to creating every character. So are you having conversations about how big you can feasibly make this world?
Yes, every day.
That's a good recent question.
That would be her headache.
I was thinking about that.
Well, because it is a sequel, we did have the benefit of our main characters designed already. We had the world somewhat, defined from the first film. So, in that sense, we knew who our mains were, so we didn't spend, months and months and months figuring them. But there are a lot of characters, but part of this world that makes it feel so real is that it feels lived in. It feels like a city, or it feels like an area. Marsh Market, for example, was a brand new area with brand new types of animals that we put in these semi-aquatic animals who live above water and below water. And that was an interesting kind of conversation in there, because we didn't really have a human equivalent to that. Right? We don't have areas where we live below water. Maybe we do, but I don't know about that. So, our design team, kind of broke it open and said, hey, what if this could be anything, what would it be? But, to the characters, so many, we knew it was important, so we really started very early on about just building characters and doing walk cycles and finding personalities of the different type of animals and their characters, and so all of that is kind of stuff that was in our film.
Yeah, well, I'd say in addition to that, we really needed to think through why any new animal was coming in. So we didn't just say, we like that animal, bring in a character like Pauper, who you just saw, is a lynx. Why do we have a lynx coming in the story? Because this is a story with reptiles. Reptiles need warmth. Lynxes are cold weather animals. And out in the real world, lynxes, 90% of their diet is rabbits. We like that. A lynx is a feline, a fox is a canine, and we like that as well. And so we really were, Quokka is the cutest thing in the world, and so Quokka being an animal therapist felt right. I think the only one that came late, and Yvett made this possible, we did say, hey, in Marsh Market, we'd like to have a dolphin do a spit take out of his blowhole. And she said, are you sure though? And we're like, yeah, we really need that.
We didn't have a dolphin built.
We didn't have one built, and she found a way to make it possible.
The
So
dolphin
you can
is
thank
just there
that
for
for
the
the
rest of the blowhole. That's good.
Well, that one joke. I hope you enjoyed it.
To stay with the Marsh Market for a moment, I would love to kind of just go top to bottom. There's incredible to watch the sequences, but also there is seems to us to have a boundless imagination and how you build a world like that. So talk about how you kind of started and then how you filled it out.
Well, I think one of the things we figured out, and this is to your point about earlier when we learned from the first film, that first film told us that the trouble of leaning in to really thinking like the animals would in this world actually really paid off in a big way. Like those multi-scale doors on the trains, all that stuff. It's a pain to build and to design. It's very expensive, as Yvett knows. But it really is what it kind of makes you it grounds the world for you. It really makes you believe that you could like step into this world. It's a place where these animals actually have to live. So Marsh Market's the same way. Like it's a above ground, above water, and subwater environment. And so even those the tubes, which are so entertaining and so great for that action sequence, are very practical transportation for water animals like hippos and seals to get across town. And what I also love, for those of you who've seen the film multiple times, our production designer, Corey Loftus, and his team hit tons of in-jokes in that area. A lot of people were asking us in previous screenings, what about the fish? What about the fish in this world who get eaten? Why does that happen? But you know, one of the things is that fish are food in this world, and there's actually a Nemo nod on one of the signs that says fish are food back there. So little nuts to our friends at Pixar. So you know, there's all sorts of stuff. It's very dense, and the fact that it feels so immersive. But honestly, to Jared's point earlier, you could put a camera anywhere in there, and really, you can tell the whole story right in that.
Yeah, I will say we did do something very different on this film than past films. We did something that we call a story jam, which is where we got the entire story department. Just so you guys know, a story artist, they're like writers, but usually it's hand-drawn sketches, and that's really where we lived for the first few years. But we brought not just our crew of story artists on, but the entire department, everybody in Disney Animation. We brought animators in and visual development artists, and we just said, we have this new location, we like the idea. We have no idea what's going to happen there. We don't know what animals are there. Let's just spend a few hours and spitball. You can make anything you want. It doesn't have to have any bearing on the lore of the world, what's canon, what's not canon, just have fun. And that's really how we started to build that in the first place. That crazy walrus that has the boat thing on his belly, that came out of that story jam. Someone drew that and we said, yes, we will build that disgusting thing.
There's some wild ideas out of that we cannot make.
There's some ideas we can't talk about today. So we leave those.
Noted. Journalism really wants to try, but let's talk about Gary for a moment. This is just to me an all-time like great match of actor, character, voice character. But at what point did you kind of notice that you had the perfect eye for it?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, I will say that there was never anyone else we thought of other than Key. So early on, we knew that we were going to bring reptiles into the story. Zootopia is known for flipping tropes, and we wanted to bring in a snake, and not just any snake, a very highly venomous pit viper. And we wanted this character to be the emotional core of the story. And I was actually, after Key won the Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is amazing, he did a terrific job. I saw him on Colbert, and Colbert had him on to interview with him, and he's just like sunshine in the form of a human being. It's unbelievable. And so I was like, man, he has to be this guy. And Adam Green, who actually led the animation for Gary, also saw that and animated Gary on Colbert's stage. So the first time we ever saw Gary moving around and talking was Key's interview with Stephen Colbert. And so we had the whole scene. At some point, that'll go out to the wall. It is amazing. Like, it's so endearing and fun. And immediately you go, I care about this guy. He's an underdog, and I want him to succeed and be okay.
Yeah, that's worth saying too, because Jared already had Gary's story at the center of the plot of the movie, but as Key came in, everyone fell in love with him, and everyone was like, I feel more for Gary, I want to know more about Gary, I want to know about Gary's family, where are they? Is he the last snake? Is there a possibility that his family could come back? So those discussions happened because Key's performance was so great. He's the most just genuine winning guy, and so that's something, again, with Jimmy and Jason bring to Hops and Nick, they push us to a new level. As soon as we get them in the room, we really do work with them, and they are creating those characters with us. So that was Key's big heart is a huge reason why Gary works.
Oh, I should also mention, this is true. So around the middle of the movie, I'm sorry, about 2/3 of the way through, when Judy is not doing well and Gary's about to freeze to death, he says this line, "permission to hug." And Key really liked that. And then as we were finishing out the movie, he said, I think it would be really nice if he said it one more time when his family shows up. And so that was Key's idea, to have that come back at the end. And I think it's such a beautiful emotional moment. That's because Key's that kind of guy.
It's another great example of the kind of iterative process you're talking about, where you bring somebody like that in, and it does inform the character, and you have the flexibility, I would think, to run to that. Right. Let's talk about Nibbles as well.
Yes.
Fortune is brilliant in that part, but it's also, to me, a great example of a character who is sort of slyly speaking to the world we live in. I'll leave it at that. Talk about, especially from the writing standpoint, like, how you slip that stuff in.
Oh man. Well, I mean, Fortune was also the only person that we ever considered. I think Fortune is hilarious. We wanted a character who, could speak truths but be what we call like a chaos agent. She comes to this movie and she is just a wrecking ball, specifically for Nick. One of the really fun things about Nick in the first movie is that he knew the city like the back of his hand. He could take Judy anywhere, and so that's where he kind of got his value in the first movie. In this one, they're going to places that Nick has never been before, that Nibbles has to take them around to, and that makes Nibbles very important, much to Nick's chagrin. Now, Nibbles is also somebody who gets things right a lot of the times, gets things wrong some of the times, right? She has a real, deep opinion about the existence of jackalopes in this world, so not always something you should listen to constantly, but she is oddly emotionally attuned, and that, obviously, as you guys saw in the prison sequence, is so important, but there's something with a character like this that you have to believe them. And as much as she is this chaos agent, when she really sort of irises down and it's that, certainly that prison sequence, you go, oh, this is somebody who really cares and has a really good opinion. And it's easy to feel like she's not going to be the one to lean on at all when she comes at. So, this is really a story about these different friendships that, that are formed over the course of the story. And when Nick is separated from Judy, he really needs Nibbles. I think that Fortune's the one that could pull that off.
In the big picture conversations around this movie, we're talking about wanting to really deepen Judy and Nick's relationship, and this film also touches on, I think, a surprisingly deep, reservoir themes, just about how we live together, right? When you are making a film like this, how are you talking about the way you want this movie to land along those lines, the way you want bigger ideas to come through while also still, obviously, entertaining everybody?
I think it's, we've talked a lot about it. It's just a very iterative process. We talked a lot very early on what we want this film to be about, what we want to say, and it was always really about Judy and Nick and their differences and how they kind of view, discover those differences in each other and how they get through it. But it really is, such a iterative process. We sit for hours in the story room with our story team, and then we screen it and we get feedback from our whole entire studio. We have a process in our studio that everybody sees the film and everybody's allowed to send in their feedback. And we gather that feedback and we go through it and we talk about it and really making sure that our, kind of what we want to say or the story we want to tell is in there.
I can say one thing that happens with that evolution as we're watching the movie come together. Well, there will be themes that come in organically from the story. The story will actually tell us what those themes are. I would say that was true of the first one as well. But with Gary and the differences between Nick and Hobbs, that really was great for us, because as we were screening, we could ask our audience, at the studio, other people who were seeing the film on our crew, and asking them what they thought the theme was. And sometimes they pick out 3 or 4 that sounded pretty good, but they lock into different stuff. So that tells us we need to kind of go through and really scrub the movie to refine exactly what's being said, because audiences are really perceptive. They will lock on to something important and hold that as that key idea. But if we're not clear enough about what we're saying, then you lose some of the emotion, you lose the punch, you lose the meaning of the film. So rather than going into it with like, we're gonna say this with this film, it really does kind of come from these collective decisions that kind of push us down a really clear path.
I'll also say, I want to give credit to Byron. When I first joined Disney Animation 14 years ago, he said to me something that has stuck with me ever since. The ability to be able to make a movie is an extreme luxury. It's as a creative person, it's winning the lottery. It's the greatest dream come true. And if you get to make a movie, you're incredibly lucky to do so. But he said, given that, and given the fact that these stories go around the world, they have to matter. So if you could only tell one story, and that story's going around the world, what is it? What do you want to say to everybody? And I think one of the most important things we can do with our stories is just start a conversation, help people to think. Obviously, we want you to have an amazing, really entertaining time. This movie's chock full of fun. We want people to laugh. We want to bring joy back. But I think ultimately, a story that helps you think is critical.
This is also. Thank you, Mom. This is also a film that has a lot for film fans to latch on to, industry observers. Most centrally, I think we can discuss The Shining film. That made me smile. Where does that come from? Like, how does that start?
Oh, we're all film nerds. We're all like honestly, we work with 700 film nerds who just love movies, like live action and animated as well. And so any opportunity to kind of put a nod in there to films we love having, The Godfather and the first one certainly. And The Shining has been one, this film we've talked about for years, and we all love it, and it's so distinctive. It's also great for us because that audience preview that I talked about, where we had like 75% storyboards, even though there was no animation, as soon as that music came on, the adults in the audience just cracked up. The kids were like, what is it? I have no idea yet. You'll see it eventually. But the fact that those nods are in it, like The Shining is a very obvious one. There's nods to kind of like Empire Strikes Back inside that weather wall. There's honestly, even like in the scene where Gary is very, very cold and trying to get to Pops. One of the things Jared brought up was the scene in E.T. where E.T. is getting very sick at the end and kind of losing all the color. And he's getting very desaturated. So our lighters and our look artists actually took the color out of Gary progressively in that scene. So as it gets colder and colder, you get more and more worried about him. So finally, when he gets warmed up by Hops, you see that color return. So it's those things that kind of make their way into the movie, and there's throughout. There's like camera stuff that's inspired by Spielberg. There's like epic stuff from way back, like Lawrence of Arabia. So I think you're just seeing a whole bunch of nerds getting to do their dream project. So it's really, and it's something I think that the audience enjoys too, because they would be going to movies.
Yvette, what do you remember about those early conversations?
Well, the Shining moment in particular, because there is a big head shades, and we kept asking, are you sure you want the head shades? They said, yeah. Okay, so, because we got to build it. It's a lot to build it. Yeah. It's a lot of leaves. It's a lot. Yeah, and then we want to just destroy it. And I was like, okay. And a lot of credit to our amazing environments team and our effects team, because, in animation because we do have to build everything, we have to build it to be destroyed. So we had designed it, and then, we're going to destroy it now. So now we need to make sure that when the snowcat goes through it, that we're actually pulling it apart in the right way. So, again, another joke. All for the jokes.
Do you remember you guys want to tell the story about Dubai?
Oh yeah, please. Well, so I will say that there's a lot of people that love The Shining. So one of our animators, Luai, he was not supposed to animate that scene. But he walked into the lead animator's offices wearing a Shining t-shirt and shut the door. You must give me these scenes. And he went in, and I think he disappeared into a cave. He was already very busy on a bunch of other sequences. He disappeared and he came back with that, and he gave us the most demented-looking Paul of all time.
You can tell that was a true fan.
But yes, he made it clear.
For the writer, is it ever too many puns?
That's a great question. The answer is it's never enough money. Yeah. Hey, guys, I would say it's the first movie. We did hear at one point, not from Disney brass, but we heard it like, I think you guys should stick to 5 puns. And we said, okay, how about 1,000 instead of 5? And the nice thing on this one was that everyone knew the assignment. And so all the puns you see, they're not all from me or from Byron or from Yvett. It is from like everyone on our teams, like just absolutely going to town. And I guarantee you, we will continue to watch this movie and still find new ones in there. There's something about this world that I think audiences expected. And I think if we didn't have it, it would be weird. So, yeah, I feel good about it.
More exponential growth, I think.
There's a lot here, so that'd be a difficult stop.
Yeah. Curious, even just in the shift from the first film to the second film, animation technology is something that's always evolving and changing. And I'm not going to make this about the puns, but even the jokes that we see within this film are often really visually complicated. There's intense crowds, and there's so much going on. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how the way animation has evolved kind of facilitated the way you could get more ambitious with this movie.
Yeah, well, definitely, this is the most ambitious film we have ever made in Disney animation, I believe, and with the amount of characters and all the different environments. And also in Disney animation, we like to push technology with every film that we release. And so it's been 9 years since the first film, and so we wanted to make sure that we had to update our characters and kind of keep up with the new technology, but still give the same look that we all know and love. And improve on it in a way that it still feels like our world. But for this film in particular, we brought in Presto, which is a software that originated at Pixar, to animate our film, which really allowed our animators to collaborate within the scenes together, where we have these scenes with multiple characters in them, allow them to work on at the same time, allow them to animate and to kind of really collaborate and really, we talk a lot about collaboration in the studio, but it really kind of helped us to up our game in collaboration.
There's also new technology we use for Gary the snake, because we have done traditionally animated snakes in the past at Disney Circus from Robin Hood, which is one of my favorites, and Jared's one of the favorite films growing up was Jungle Book, was The Amazing Kaa, but we had never done a snake that's not a villain. And 2, we've never done a snake in CG. So with the snake, with the rigging and with performance is a trick because they've got no arms and legs, and so they have to express themselves differently. We also have these beautiful scales that Gary has. Gary was designed after a Thai tree viper by Corey Loft as our production designer. And he actually, just a bit of trivia, he designed in blue. This pit viper is bright blue because in the mammal world, blue does not exist. And so not only is he an outsider because he's a reptile and a snake, but because he's a color that is never seen in this world. And so that was one of the reasons Corey did that. But in designing him, we also gave him these beautiful keeled scales. They're called keeled scales because they look like the bottom of a ship, like the bottom of a boat. But when those things move around, if you don't do it quite right, it can look like a kind of rubber hose, or it can look like it's deforming. But Scoot, this S-C-U-T-E, is this new software that allows like the little plates to move just perfectly like they really would with the snake. So on top of being beautifully animated, beautifully acted, it's really influenced by real animals and figuring out what we need to do to kind of ground the world and celebrate what's great about the actual animal. And that's why we have geniuses who are much smarter than myself, and they're kind of figuring this stuff out. But it's amazing because everyone is so good at what they do, but it's all in service of the story.
I will say also, one of the testaments of how good these guys are is that you don't actually a lot of times notice how hard these things are. As an example, the very opening car chase, you see they go past this sheep barber shop where they're shearing these sheep. That's where you see Ed Sheeran getting shorn. We're very excited about that. That shot, though, when Judy hits that big bucket of wool and it explodes all the way through that barber shop, this is true. So every little piece of wool there, all the light refraction is correct for the millions of pieces of wool. So for each frame of that shot took 8 days to render. Each frame. Right? And it's only we're like, what? But you would never notice. But it's just really spectacular. Everyone always trying to raise the bar.
Yeah, the testament to the amount of work is a film like this. Well, before we wrap, we do have a surprise for Yvette.
So what could that be?
It is her birthday. It's her birthday. While we are setting this up, I was wondering if you guys could help us out and sing.
Oh, yeah.
Happy
Yes.
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Yvette. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, delightful.
For everyone.
Oh.
It's fine.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.